You can draw this in Procreate. You can draw this on your iPad in the app Procreate by just following some easy steps. We'll start off by creating some basic shapes for our rocks, then we'll add a sun and some trees before we start adding some final texture and details. And during this tutorial, you will even be creating your own Procreate brush. So I'm sure that once you have reached the end of the tutorial, you will feel super proud and you'll want to share your results. If you are sharing it on Instagram, then don't forget to tag me in the image, not just in the description, because I would love to be able to find your work, so maybe we'll see it in the next video. And look at these awesome results from my friends at Patreon. That's the place you will need to go if you have a Procreate tutorial addiction, or if you really want to learn more, because there I have over 100 Procreate tutorials and they range from beginner level to more advanced levels. But now let's get started with this tutorial. We will be using free brushes, only brushes that are already in the Procreate app. If you want even more free brushes, then I would encourage you to go to freefromflow.com. I have a whole bunch of free brushes for you and an ebook about color theory. In any case, for this tutorial, we are using a canvas that is 2300 pixels by 3000 pixels. I bet if you are a regular watcher, you already have that as a preset, and the color profile is set to sRGB. I have created a color palette for you, which I have linked in the description. It's totally free. Actually, everything about this tutorial is totally free. So if you are ready, let's get started. The first thing we'll do is fill our canvas with a color. Let's go to the color palette and let's grab this color over here. It's the first color in the first row and we'll just drag it onto our screen. And now we are going to create a little gradient for our background, and we'll do that by using the soft brush under airbrushing. And for the color, we are going to grab this second color in the first row. Now the opacity of this brush is at 60% and the size is at 25%. And now let's just color the top part of our canvas. Just like this. And then we'll switch to the darker blue. That's the third color in the first row. We are going to use that for just the little edge at the top. A bit like this. So as you can see, I'm not even on the canvas. I'm painting above the canvas, just to get a little edge here. Now to make it softer, we'll go to the magic wand and use Gaussian blur. Just slide your pen to the right to blur this a little bit. Let's go for 30% and then tap the magic wand again. The next thing we'll do is create the basic shapes for our rocks for our Ravine artwork. And we'll need to do that on a separate layer. Let's go to the layer menu, the two little squares, and tap the plus for a new layer. And now for our brush, we are going to go to the calligraphy brushes and use the script brush. And for the color, we are going to use this first color in the third row. Now the opacity of this brush is at 100% and the size is at 15%. And let's just start about here. And we'll make a little diagonal line going down. It can be a little bit wobbly. We'll go a bit to the right over here and then back to the left for a pretty random rock shape. Then we'll start here again, go downward, upward a little bit, just a wobbly line like this, and then drag in the color to fill that shape. I feel like it might be a little bit too big. You can easily fix that by going to the move and transform tool over here. And then let's use freeform and drag this handle to make it a little bit thinner, and we can move it a little bit outside of our canvas. And you could also use distort over here. That way you can use these handles to distort your rock a little bit, or you can use warp even to warp it a bit. That way you don't need to draw, but still you have full control over your rock. I think it looks good like this. Let's go back to the brush tool and let's make another rock over here. This time let's start over here a little bit higher than for the other rock. Make a wobbly line to about here, and then we'll go downwards diagonally to create another rock-like shape. And for this brush, the harder you press, the thicker your line will become. But that only works if you're using a pen that has pressure sensitivity like the Apple Pencil. Please don't try this when you are using your finger, of course. Now drag in a color and fill this shape. If you want to sculpt your rocks a little bit more, then you can use the eraser for that. If you want to use the eraser with the same brush as you were using right now, then you can just tap and hold the eraser so that it switches to the script brush as well. And now you can just cut off some parts of the rocks, make it more pointy, for example, or maybe you want to just get rid of some parts. And that's an easy way to get the right brush for your eraser. Now that we have the basic shapes for our rocks, let's go ahead and create a sun. We'll do that on a new layer again. Let's make that layer underneath our rocks. Let's go to layer 1 and then tap the plus. And I'm putting that on a layer underneath these rocks because the sun is further away than our rocks. So I'm trying to put the layers that are close to the viewer on top and the layers that are further away at the bottom. So first we have our sky, then our sun, and then our trees will come. Now for our sun, we will use an airbrush. Let's go to the airbrushing brushes and use the medium brush. And for the color, let's grab this color over here, the fourth color in the first row. Now the opacity of this brush is at 100% and the size is at 4%. And we are going to create a little circle in the center over here between our rocks. Just draw a little circle like this. Now we are going to add a special effect to this circle. We'll go to the magic wand and then to bloom. First, drag to the right on your screen to 50% for your bloom. And then let's turn up the size a little bit to 40%. And let's also turn up the burn. You can see that the sun is burning brighter as you move it up. Let's set it to 42%. I do feel like it's a little bit too harsh, so let's tap the magic wand and then tap it again to go to Gaussian blur and give a slight blur to our sun here. Let's set it to 11%. Alright, then let's go to the layer menu again and let's make a layer underneath this sun layer. So first tap layer 1, then tap the plus. And now let's make a little extra yellow underneath this one. So let's go to the soft brush, which has a softer edge, so you get a softer transition. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's go for, well, 8%. And let's go around here to add a little bit of an extra yellow glow. It's very subtle, but it adds that extra touch. Now we are going to duplicate layer 3, drag to the left on the layer, then tap duplicate and go to the bottom one. Now let's go ahead and use the smudge tool. That's the little finger icon, and let's use the watercolor brush for our smudge tool. The opacity of this smudge brush is at 100%, and let's set the size to about 30%. And now let's smudge that light a little bit, as if there is a bit of like a haze. And you can push and pull back and forth, but just use these horizontal strokes. I think this is perfect. All right, let's continue. Let's move on to our trees. This is going to be fun as well. We are going to use a special brush that is already in Procreate. You can find it under the organic brushes, and it's the rainforest brush. I have the opacity set to 100% and the size is at 9%. And for the color, we are going to start with this color over here, the first color in the second row. And of course, we need to make a new layer. These trees will be closer to the viewer, so we need the layer to be on top of the sun. So first, tap layer 3 and then tap the plus for a new layer. And now let's go ahead and make a stroke of trees here. Then we'll create a new layer on top, so tap the plus. And we'll go and grab the next color. That's the second color in the second row. And then we'll make another stroke overlapping the other one. Add some more trees here. And you can see that if you press lightly, the trees will become more transparent. And of course, trees aren't usually transparent, but in this case it gives a nice effect, like a misty effect. Let's move on to the next color. First, we need to make a new layer, so tap the plus, and then move on to the third color and the second row. And then again, we'll make another line of trees overlapping the other one. We can add some few extra here. It's just nice if you leave some of these lighter gaps in between. All right, one more layer of trees. Let's tap the plus for a new layer, and for our color, we'll grab the fourth color and the second row, and then we'll make another line of trees all the way down here. Now, if you like, you can add a little bit of extra mist. First, let's go to layer 6. That's the first line of trees that we have created. And now we can go to the airbrushing brushes and use the soft brush. And for the color, we can use this color, that yellow, that fourth color in the first row. And then you can just glaze over that lower area, adding a little bit of mist there. You can do the same for layer 7. Just go to that layer and then add a little bit of extra mist. I also want to add some blue haze, and we'll do that on top of all of these tree layers. First, go to layer 9. And tap the plus, and now for the color, we'll grab this one over here, the sixth color in the first row, and let's make the brush a little bit bigger. Let's go for 25%, and let's just go over this lower area, adding a little bit of that blue. Then to make it more subtle, you can go to the layer menu, tap the N icon over here, and lower the opacity. Let's go for 70%. Next, let's go ahead and add some texture to the rocks. Let's go to the layer with the rocks, and we are going to turn on alpha lock here. Tap the layer and turn on alpha lock. So now we won't be able to paint outside of that shape. Whatever we paint, it'll show up on our rock. And let's go to the industrial brushes and use the twisted tree brush. And for the color, we'll grab the second color in the third row. Now the opacity of the brush is at 70% and the size is at 18%. And we are just going to glaze over these rocks, adding this nice texture. I hope you'll be able to see it on camera. Let's also switch to a lighter color, the third color in the third row. And we'll add a little bit of light texture here to the right side, and here to the left side and top side here, for a little bit of variation. Next, we'll go ahead to the drawing brushes over here and use the gloaming brush. We'll keep it set to this color. The opacity is set to 100% and the size is at 10%. And we are just going to add a few little details, a few little lines. Over here, a few little cracks. You can add a little bit of light here to the top. Just a few touches to our rocks, like this. And over here, a few on the left side. Do you know that you can get like a 200% increase in artistic abilities by just hitting that like button? I don't know either, but you can try. Now I just want to add a little bit more warmth to these rocks. They look a little bit gray. Let's add a layer on top of this one by tapping the plus. And I want to make sure that whatever we paint here shows up on the rocks alone. So let's tap the layer and turn on clipping mask. And we are going to set the layer blending mode to overlay. You need to tap the N here, scroll down to overlay, which is a great layer blending mode to tweak colors, add warmth. It's just one of my favorite layer blending modes. Let's go to the airbrushing brushes and use the soft brush, and let's set it to a warm color. For instance, you could grab this one over here. It's pretty warm, that fourth color in the second row. And now let's just glaze over these sides with our airbrush to add that warmth. You can see nothing is happening to our texture that we have laid down. It's just tweaking the colors. Our work is already looking great, but we're not there yet. Let's add some more trees. Let's add trees on a layer underneath our rock. So first go to layer 10 and then tap the plus for a new layer. And for our tree, we are going to use a handy brush that is part of the treasure chest brush pack. Like I said, you can get it for totally free. Here we have it, the Bear Tree Brush. And for the color, we are going to use this one over here. It's the 5th color in the 2nd row. The opacity of the brush is at 100%. We don't want no ghost tree. We want it to be fully opaque. Let's make the brush a bit bigger, 45%, and just tap on your screen. Then go to the Move and Transform tool, the little arrow. Let's first go to Freeform. And let's zoom out a little bit. Move our canvas up. Let's move it down here. We can make it a little bit bigger, perhaps. And we can twist it a little bit. Let's go to Distort. Change it a little bit like this. And we can also use Warp. Just push and pull these branches until you get something like this. Then we are going to do this again. Let's go to the layer menu, tap the plus for a new layer for another tree. Again, just tap on your screen and then use the Move and Transform tool. First choose Flip Horizontal. Then let's go to Freeform again. Let's place this one over here. First I'll go to Distort. Change it a little bit like this. And then use Warp to twist it even more. And it's alright if they overlap, no problem at all. Something like this is fine. Then just tap the arrow, and now it's time to add leaves. And we are going to create a brand new brush for that. We are going to do it together. I'm going to guide you through the steps. First, let's just go to the treasure chest brush pack. I'll make this new brush over here. I'll also just add it to the treasure chest. So in case you don't feel like creating your own brush, then you can just download it. But for now, let me show you all the steps to create this brush. Let's tap the plus to create a new brush. And here we first have the stroke path where we are going to set it to 75%. And we are going to turn the jitter to around 60%. Or 61, that's fine too. Then we'll go to shape over here and we are going to set the rotation to follow stroke. So turn it all the way to the right and we are going to set the scatter to 8%. Next, we are going to change the shape of our brush. Right now it's a circle, but you can use these little handles over here to make it more flat. Go to about here. And finally, let's go to Apple Pencil and turn down the opacity so that every stroke is fully opaque. I do want the size to vary a little bit, so let's turn it to the right and set it to 85%. Now the harder you press, the bigger the stroke will become. And then if you like, you can go to About This Brush and give your brush a name, a photo, you can add your own name and your signature. Then tap done and you have your brush. We're going to use this to add leaves to our tree. The color is already correct. The opacity needs to be at 100% and let's set the size to around 18%. And let's start with this tree on the left. And let's add these leaves by making a bit of these rounded motions and vary the pressure a little bit. You can see that if you make these rounded motions, you get these nice rounded shapes because that brush is following the direction of your stroke. Also add some here. It's covering that other tree over here. Perhaps some leaves over here. Try not to cover every single area. Try to leave some gaps. Perhaps a little bit more over here. And then once you have something like this, you can move on to the other tree, layer 12. And let's add some leaves here as well. You don't have to follow those branches exactly. We can add a few more leaves over here. Just make these rounded strokes. Make these nice patches of leaves. And once you have this, turn the layer to alpha lock, tap the layer, turn on alpha lock, and let's switch the color. Let's grab this color for this tree on the right. That's the last color in the second row. And let's go over these top areas where the light would be hitting. The light would be hitting these leaves here. So just go for the top parts of these like groups of leaves. And once you have done that, let's also grab the soft brush. We can actually just go to recent here at the top and grab that soft brush. You can see all the brushes we have used so far here. It's super handy to have this recent tab here. So the soft brush, it's still set to 60% opacity, size is at 25%, and let's glaze over the top a little bit to warm this tree up. Not too much, just a little bit. Then move back to layer 13, the other tree. Make sure you turn on alpha lock, so we won't be painting outside of the shape. Then go back to the leaf brush that we have just created. And now let's move to this color over here, the 6th color in the second row. And let's do the same over here. Let's go over these top areas where the light would be hitting and add some of these lighter leaves here. Then let's go and grab the soft brush again. And again, we'll glaze over top area to add a little bit of warmth. Now let's add some more trees, but this time let's draw some trees by hand. First, let's go and create a layer. We'll do that on top of this one, so let's just tap the plus. And for our brush, we are going back to the calligraphy brushes. And we are going to use the script brush again. For the color, we are going to use this one over here. It's the 5th color in the 3rd row. Now the opacity of this brush is at 100% and the size is at 15% still. And like I said, with this brush, the harder you press, the thicker your line will become. And drawing trees is a great exercise if you want to get more control over the pressure. Let's start over here and make a line going up. And we'll just start with like the skeleton of our tree. So we just have this V shape here at the top, and then we're going to start making our tree thicker. And a tree is way more thick at the bottom near the roots than at the ends of the branches. They become thinner as you go. So use light pressure as you move towards the outside. And here at the base, it'll be nice and thick. And it continues to get thinner as you move outwards. And we just need a few of these branches. We are going to cover them with leaves, of course. But there will be some gaps between the leaves, and then you want to see those branches in between. So you don't have to give them too much thought, but there do need to be some branches here. Just make sure that you don't make thick and heavy branches at the ends, because that will look unnatural. Let's make a smaller tree right next to it with very thin branches. Something like this is fine. Let's make another tree here on the right side. Let's start here. Make a wobbly line going up. We'll go to this side. And then we'll make another line. And then we'll go in this direction. We'll add more branches. Of course, if you are having too much trouble drawing these trees, then you can also just use the tree stamp again, the tree brush, the bare tree. But I think it's a nice challenge to draw your own tree. And of course, you're working on a separate layer. You can always just use the eraser and start over. Digital art is very forgiving that way. So just keep trying. You have no idea how many tries I need, or how long I need to practice before I start recording a video like this. So don't worry if you need multiple tries. I think we have enough branches that we can use to cover with our leaves. We are going to use our leaf brush again, so let's go back to the treasure chest brush pack. Let's go to that new brush we have created, and we'll stick with this color we're using, and we are just going to cover these trees with a bunch of leaves. And you just want to make sure that you keep seeing a few of those branches that we have created. We haven't worked so hard for nothing. You want to be able to keep seeing those branches, just not too much, not too many, just a few through those leaves. So now you can just cover those branches that you don't like that much. You can just cover them with leaves now. I wanted to hang over that cliff a little bit, so let's add a few more leaves here. And then on the other side, we'll do the same thing. Let's cover the top area, make these rounded motions just like we did before. And make these little groups of leaves. And you don't just have to put them at the ends of the branches like this. You can place them wherever you like. You can place them over here. It doesn't need to be exactly where a branch is. Just make sure that you create these kind of like groups of leaves. Over here, this little tree. I think we need some more over here. I think they are nicely covered now. Next, we are going to use the same trick as we did before. So first, turn on alpha lock on this layer and then switch the color. Let's use this one over here. First, the fourth color in the third row. And let's add some warmer leaves. And we are going to focus a bit on the underside of these clumps of leaves, because the sun is over here, so it's lighting the tree from the underside. So let's add some variation in color. Just a few spots of these more reddish leaves. Then we'll switch to a lighter color, this sixth color in the third row. Now let's add a few spots of even lighter leaves. Next, we also need a glow, so let's go and use the soft brush under airbrushing, which is part of the recent brushes here. Let's just go over the sides a little bit. And here on the right side, And finally, for some texture on the tree bark, let's use the gloaming brush again. It's still under my recent brushes, but if you don't have it there anymore, then you just need to go to the drawing brushes. Now let's just make a few of these wiggly lines along the tree to add some extra texture. Here as well, I'll just follow that tree bark. And this one as well, a little light. Now finally, for anyone who wants to cross this ravine, we need a bridge, of course. Let's create a bridge underneath our rocks layer. So we are on the right layer actually right now. Let's tap the plus for a new one. And let's grab a different brush. We are going to go to the inking brushes and use the dry ink brush. And for our color, we are going to use this one over here, the first color in the third row. The opacity of this brush is at 100% and the size is at 8%. And we are going to start by making two little lines. We'll start here, make a line going up a bit diagonally. You don't have to do this super tidy. It can be a little bit like sketchy. Make another one over here. And we'll do the same thing on this side. Let's make one over here. And then one over here. Going a little bit in the other direction. It's a bit of a sketchy bridge. It needs a little bit of extra support. Let's make a little line here and over here. And let's give some support over here. Now we are going to make like the bridge part. Let's rotate our canvas. For me, that's easier to make a curved line like this instead of like this. It doesn't feel natural. So rotate your canvas if you need to. And now let's start here and make a line to the other side. You can hold your pen in place to make it snap to the quick line. And then you can go to edit shape if you need to edit your line a little bit. Let's go for something like this. And tap your brush again and try to follow this line. Make something similar because we want to add a little bit of thickness. And it's okay if it's a little bit wobbly. Let's go for something like this. And now let's imagine that there are some planks here. We do want some gaps in between. A bit like this. Want some gaps to be a bit bigger. Let's add an extra line here. And of course you can also use the eraser tool. You can just tap and hold the eraser to make it switch to that dry ink brush. I often try to erase with the same brush as I'm using for drawing because that way you will get that same texture. Otherwise it will look unnatural if you get like a very clean edge when erasing here. So let's just erase some parts for our sketchy little bridge. This looks a bit too sketchy over here. Let's grab the brush again and fix that area. And let's also add some of these ropes hanging here. Over here, just some of these loops. Now we are going to attach this one to that one. Just hold your pen in place to make it snap to that quick line. And then this one with that one. And now let's attach these parts to the bottom of the bridge. We're making these diagonal lines and they meet here at the bottom. So I'm making these like V shapes. Now let's add a little, like a little circle here where it's attached. There might be something like a knot there. Yeah, I think this looks good. I'm not sure if I would walk across, but it's doing a perfect job for our illustration. I do want to add some extra color, some warmth. Let's turn on alpha lock for this layer. So tap it, turn on alpha lock, and go back to the soft brush under airbrushing. And for our color, we are going to grab, let's say this one, third color and the second row. And let's just glaze over this center area to make it more warm. And that's it actually. You have done it. You have reached the end of this tutorial. I hope you are happy with your final results. I hope you have enjoyed following this tutorial. Let me know if you did. I'm always happy to read the comments. Also be sure to share your result with the world. And now that you have finished this tutorial, why not make it a streak? Perhaps you'll like one of the other tutorials I have created, like this one for example. So keep creating, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time for the next tutorial.